Hi, Sailaja. Can you hear me? Hi.
Hi, am I audible as well?
Yes, Sailaja, you're audible. I can see your video. Everything is clear. Great to have you back at Reinvent. How are you doing?
I am good, and it's really good to be back and with a wonderful dynamic team of Rocheston. Yeah.
We are very happy to have you. So, how are things over there, Sailaja? Still working from home?
Yes, things are still normal, like the new normal, I have to say. Everything is back and being at home and just waiting, like our numbers still go down and down. India is still doing good when we compare with the other locations. So that's the hope we have.
Okay, that's nice. So, I'm not going to take up too much of time. I know today is Saturday. It's a holiday for you. So, I'm going to tell the audience a little bit about what you're talking about and introduce them to you. In the meantime, you can go ahead and get your screen share set up, and we can go ahead and get started. So we have with us Sailaja. She's the director of security and privacy at a leading software provider. She's going to be talking about cyber climate prediction, threat hunting in the digital age. So a little bit about Sailaja. Sailaja is a seasoned security and data security professional, author, research, mentor, and global advisory member. She has over 18 years of experience. She is currently working as the director of security and privacy and data privacy and application security lead at a leading software provider. She made it into the list of top Indian women security influencers 2020. She acts as an evangelist by frequently guest speaking in various national and international forums on security and privacy. As part of Pro Bono, she founded a non-profit WICSP, which is Women in Cybersecurity and Privacy, aiming to educate and sensitize young girls and women in cyberspace. She works with multiple non-profits and is associated with industry bodies and organizations worldwide. We are very happy to welcome you back to Reinvent Sailaja. With that, I'm handing the stage over to you. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Aditya, and also warm welcome from my side. Thank you all for joining. I know this is a holiday and this is a weekend for all of us across the globe. And for me personally, this is also coming back to my good friends whom I also was associated during the last session or the last event they hosted. And without much delay, I would like to quickly jump into today's topic, which is about the climate prediction and how is it about what is all about this cyber climate prediction and how is it what is it has to do something in the digital era. For example, before getting into the cyber aspects of it, we all definitely know there is a lot of importance and a lot of stress given for the climate across the globe, and even starting from small kids are doing a lot of proposals and also leading huge revolutions across the globe, with which even the world leaders are kind of being shaken, and then they're all taking a reasonable amount of actions to protect the climate around for all of our good, right? The same is the case with the threat hunting in digital era, because when we look into the things that are happening around us, right, there are only two categories of organizations or people that we have to save, at least all of us who are working in the cyberspace. We say one category is like people who know they're being attacked or they're something or the other of their data is being compromised, and the second category is like people who are being attacked but they don't know like they're already being attacked. So in the similar way, when we look into this entire era of digitization, right, future is all digital and we can't avoid it. And in this, the risks are going higher and higher. And threat hunting is a word which we are hearing a lot more in the upcoming days, also because of all the complexities around it. So today I thought let me just quickly take you all through what is threat hunting is all about, and what is we already have SOC, and how is it going to be different from SOC, and what is a threat hunting cycle, and what are the goals of threat hunting, how organizations are trying to also get into this new domain, and also trying to ensure there is an uh, clear prediction of things that can happen inside the organization. Even my previous speaker was also mentioning, right? Um, for example, some of the threats, some of the issues that can reside inside the organization, starting from days, weeks, months to years. Just imagine if an malware, if an adversary is inside, or if an malware is inside the organization for months, years, and how much of an disaster it is going to be for the organizations around us. So I just also want to have a goal for this. all of us, let's start contemplation, and then walk away from my session having some good understanding about what is that all about. We are going to learn about threat hunting and how is it going to be helping the organizations and how different it is from the existing SOC operations and so on and so forth. Yeah, so ransomware is one of the biggest term or the loudest or the most stressful term for the organizations we have been hearing throughout the pandemic. Earlier, at least people in the cyber domain like us or in the privacy domain, we always used to hear some news only from dedicated channels where their main focus is on the cyberspace. But now it's not irony to say these noise or this all the things that are happening in the cyberspace is hitting the headlines of the news, irrespective of any platform. It can be a media, it can be a channel, it can be a newspaper, not only on the spaces dedicated for the cyber zones, but also on all the platforms. The reason being they're so loud and they're so expensive and they're going on and on. And it is also very sad to see during the peak time of pandemic, people are not even sparing the hospitals and also the institutions which are supporting to come up with a remedy or a medicine or a vaccine for all of this pandemic that is going around us. And we also see the numbers are going huge, higher and higher, because cybersecurity ventures also came up with an high estimate or a prediction of what is that, each and every time by talking about a monthly, weekly, daily, hourly, and at a second, how much the cybercrime is really costing the world and where is this really pushing us. And when we look into all of these things that are happening around us, it really looks scary. Yes, for sure. And also, as I said, future is all going to be digital. We really have to look into the existing methods and methodologies, but the way how the criminals are also upping their game day by day and also using all the methodologies around AI, ML, whatever we talk about, they're also using the same. So when they have all such kind of, changes in their game, I think the organizations also have to get into the new spaces, new domains, and one of that sort is also like threat hunting, trying to also, compete with them and try to protect their assets. Yeah. And at the same time, cloud is also one of the biggest word that you've been hearing. And there were a lot of predictions done by big giants like Gartners and many others telling there's a huge increase or the huge leap in the companies that are going to adopt cloud due to COVID, because uh, the organizations wanted to really spend less because of also the cost effectiveness, I have to say, and also the kind of flexibility the organizations have. And on the other side, people also say cloud is more leaky than any other technology that we have in front of us. So with all of these challenges, what is really going on and who are the kind of variety of adversaries who are behind all of these cyber crimes, right? Sometimes it can be cyber criminals, and sometimes it can be hacktivists and state sponsored. And it is also, when I'm looking into the statistics, they're mostly it's like 50% of the attacks are coming in from the malicious insiders, knowingly or unknowingly. So which means if we are able to keep the house clean, if the house rules are clean, if the people inside the house are clean, and then with which we can always say like 50% of the things are already being handled. The same is the case with COVID, right? We always say maintain the cyber hygiene, maintain few things when you're coming out, coming out of the house, wear your mask. When you're getting inside the house, wash your hands, and so on and so forth. The same is the case with the cyberspace. Since most of the issues, as we see, are going higher and higher, also the reason being people are remotely connecting and so on. So if we keep the house clean, 50%, like half of the headache is really or can be handled within the organization. Yeah. And when we are talking about this particular space of threat hunting, we definitely have to get into this SOC, right? And the SOC is having several set of roles, functions, and tools. Normally, SOC is all about looking into this forensics, detection engineering, network security monitoring, vulnerability assessments, and we have a lot of tools as well that are available. Like there's several SIM tools, GRC, IDS, and IPS, and we have WAFs. At the same time, we also have, some of them are preventative, some of them are proactive, some of them are reactive, and we have also this EDRs, and we also have UEBA, which is also using machine learning and all of this algorithms, AI, and all of that. And the reason why I'm also touching upon this SOC is because if I have to talk about threat hunting, this is an extension of an activity or a new stream that is started, which has come out of it. And I will also get into the definition of what is threat hunting all about. And here in the SOC, normally we have different set of a tier level engineers or analysts who are responsible, and the level when people normally look into this first level of defense, or if whenever there is an alert, so they just look into that and do the investigation. And the second tier of analysts are also those who look into this incident responders, and the third level is the advanced, the experts, the subject matter experts, and the threat hunters, and so on and so forth. And in this entire picture, we're all talking about, I'm not sure if you have observed, we're talking about people, process, and technology as the core of this. Whichever operation, whichever thing we look into, the main aspect is we have to have people to do the things, we have to have tools, we have to have process in place, without which we will not be able to achieve the goals that we have in front of us. Yeah. And then when I'm talking about threat hunting, I have to definitely say it's a pure cultural shift. Culture is really, really something which is important. And when I'm talking about this, I also would like to talk about the pyramid of pain. This is also coined by one of the security guy who is David Bianco. And he said, he coined this one, and he also put up this one when he's when he focused on incident response and threat hunting for all the uh, for the purpose of improving the applicability of attack indicators. So what I want to say here is we can't get into this immediately changing a culture is something which is really difficult and challenging. But then, if I have to talk about what is that cultural shift from a SOC to the threat hunting, we have to see SOC is always reactive. When you see an alert, when you see some trigger, when you see some different patterns, or when you see a huge traffic, that is where you just try to look into those things, and you just really try to respond and mitigate all of those. But on the other side, when we have to talk about the next impact, the next level of proactiveness, right? Because now, as I said, the cyber criminals are also really upping their game day by day. So we can always sit with the reactive ones, but we also have to up our game by getting into the proactive way of detecting the behavior with indicators of attack with an iterative process. And if I have to divide this pyramid of pain, because it also has several set of things, so the reactive ones are like looking into this domain names, IP addresses, and hash values. And the proactive category, if we have to look into the TTPs, the tools, the network host, and artifacts. For example, in the reactive ones, say like if someone is trying to use a domain name and get into the attacks, if I try to identify, okay, this domain name is something kind of really tricky, and then it can be something suspicious, then it takes no time for all of these guys to change the domain name to register a new one and come up. The same is the case with IP addresses. For example, if you detect an IP address, if you want to filter using this IP address or a particular domain name into your existing firewalls or any other mechanisms, people can always get into this cloud, and they can also get some virtualization, and they can even immediately change their IP addresses and so on and so forth. So I just want to break this pyramid of pain of David Bianca into two, and then say like the first part is the half of the pyramid is really looking into this, is highlighting about the reactive ones of having simple, easy, trivial ones, and the top level, the top portion of the pyramid is really looking into the tough, challenging, and the annoying ones, wherein which we have to adopt the proactive ways of looking into all of these things that are around us. And now coming into, since we have touched based upon SOC, and if I have to talk about what is threat hunting all about, threat hunting is relatively a new function within the Security Operations Center within SOC, which is where I also have to quickly touch base upon SOC, with some are more traditional and pre-established process and roles. And at the same time, if this is more proactive way of doing things rather than reactive way of doing things, and at the same time, this is also kind of iteratively searching through the networks to detect and to isolate advanced threats that evade existing security solutions. Yeah, so this is a proactive approach of you sitting into, or you looking into your entire infrastructure and entire atmosphere and trying to identify without having much alerts and trying to really fix them. Yeah. And whenever we talk about this threat hunting, right, people really think like in the ideal way. It is like someone really chasing you, and you have to really uh, keep your up your game by, so that the target is losing its focus. But in the real world, you never know. The attacker is in front of you, and you don't have any tools, and then you just out of sight, and you just don't know how to react to that particular thing, and suddenly it is coming on your face, and you're just clueless on how to really react to this particular situation, or an adversary. And again, there is one other important factor when we talk about this threat hunting, right? Threat hunting also really depends on the maturity of an organization. This is the SANS security awareness maturity model. And if we have to implement any methodology, it can be anything, right? Any new process within the security, especially for threat hunting, the amount of results or the amount of the maturity the organization has purely dependent on the maturity, right? So the more mature the organization is, then the more advanced results or the more expected results that you can get out of this threat hunting methodology that you want to really start looking into this proactive way of getting into things done for you. Yeah. And what is threat hunting cycle all about? So, threat hunting is an iterative approach, as I said, and it is also more of an, um, you know, proactive way of identifying things. And it starts with the hypothesis, and then hypothesis is nothing but creating knowledgeable assumptions. And when I say creating knowledgeable assumptions, which is about the various type of adversarial effects of activities going on in your network. Yeah. So that is how you make your hypothesis, and then you start investigating into them. And then you also do a deep dive. And deep dive is nothing but discover the modern malicious or suspicious patterns of things. And here you can also apply machine learning. It can be manual, it can be automated, it can be AI, ML, and different methodologies is what you can really look into this deep dive methodology. You do the analytics, and then you continuously start doing the iterative approach of doing threat hunting. Again, you get into hypothesis, investigate, deep dive, and so on and so forth. And the important factor when you're doing threat hunting is we really have to understand what is the focus area. What is that area you really want to focus, and then you would like to do threat hunting, because the organizations are of huge sizes, having multi-level technicalities and multi-level tools, devices, process in place, and many other things. And so most of the times they also have a lot of this hybrid environments and so on and so forth, right? So when you really have a target, a focus area, like where you have to really focus on and try to do your analysis, hypothesis, and all that, it becomes really easy for all of us to do this one. So how to size is the next question that we can all talk about. And if you have to really ask me, threat hunting is not every time about finding the APTs or sophisticated actors and so on and so forth. Sometimes it is also when we look into the cloud, since we also touch based upon cloud, right? Whenever I look into this cloud, news that I get to see on the internet or from several sources, most of the times we find the misconfigurations are the biggest headaches in the clouds, and 50% of them are all the issues that happen inside the cloud setup is all due to misconfigurations. Using the proactive methodologies, if we can really find the misconfigurations or lots of configuration drifts, at the same time the mismatched permissions or unnecessary permissions, like for example, look, maybe there can be a server or there can be a critical system, and there are so many people who have access to that, not necessarily all of them need access to that. At the same time, mismatched permissions, like someone has passed, and this is also quite possible during the pandemic because people are all working virtually sometimes, and it is also like you're just sharing permissions, and the permissions are mismatched. For example, a person sitting in city A doesn't have access to internet things, and then he's asking the administrator, can you please pass this permissions or provide this permissions to this person B? Ideally, technically, as per the definition, only this person A should have access to that. So, and for now they want to do such activities to get the things done, but in the long run that is going to be a disaster for the organizations. So I'm just telling one example so that we all can really relate it to, because we all are living in this pandemic times and all that. And at the same time, identify accounts that don't need to exist. in the first place. For example, I can also tell you nowadays we have most of the organizations are on cloud. It can be on Azure, AWS, Google Cloud, and so on and so forth. Some of the organizations, most of the people have accounts on so many things, right? Uh, but not necessarily they are not using it or they don't need it. Some of, even in our organizations, it is very common to have people having access to so many systems, and maybe they're changing their teams from one team to the other team, and the particular access is not invoked or revoked, for example. So we also have to understand, identify the accounts that don't need to exist. For example, if a person A is leaving this project, or if a person leaves A is getting into a new role or a different role, then we just have to take off the accounts that don't need to exist. And at the same time, from time to time, it is it is not avoidable, it is non-avoidable to have any compromised or non-compromised systems inside the organizations. So it is really important to see, is there any compromised system that is still available in the network. For sure, we know like there was an incident or there is an issue that happened and the system is still lying inside the network. So these are some of the things, I can really throw at all of us, and give a food for thought when we start doing this, when we are getting into this techniques of proactive approaches. First of all, when we identify all of this, and I also mentioned, right, the in-house threats, the insider threats are the biggest threats. And if we have all of any of these things like mismatched permissions or or people having access to the systems which they don't need which they don't need anymore, and all of these things, if we can really sort out all of these things, then you also get a perfect surface area to focus and to also start doing your approaches and methodologies. At the same time, you can also reduce a lot of your insider threats, like because for example, people, I don't want to say like here people are, always trying to be malicious or trying to do something wrong. It may be because they are doing it, they don't know the impact of it. They're just trying to play around with the system, or they just want to play around since they have access to that. In the first place, if we limit those people from having access to that critical systems, then we are also cut shorting that route of having a bigger problem statement in front of us, right? So these are some of the things that we can really do to size or focus on the areas that we can really start working on. Yes, and some of the companies or sometimes organizations say the environment is very quiet. And does it mean like we don't have, any issues inside the organizations? I don't think so, right? We can't even, trust in the clear skies sometimes, and it changes in no time, and then it can lead into a cyclone and everything. The same is the case inside the organizations. When we think like, okay, everything, all the tools are showing me good results, all the statistics are good, and all my dashboards are showing excellent curves, and all KPIs are being met. Does it mean we don't have anything? No, I can't say so. And the one of the important aspect that is hidden inside this entire threat hunting cycle is the feedback loop. So in the feedback loop, what we all have to say is if the hunt is successful, yes, not all the times, most of the times, we don't get any results, that's okay. But at the same time, if you get any valuable results, what we have to do is pass these observations immediately with the detection engineers or the teams to come up with a detection logic, so that it will be caught up with them next time when they see such kind of behaviors inside the network or inside your space. At the same time, if you have empty nets, you've gone out for fishing and you could not get any fishes that day. Maybe it can be because you have limitations of skills, or it can be a limitations of knowledge gaps, or it can be tool set, or also it can be data set limitations. You don't have the right amount of data to conduct or get into your threat hunting cycle and come out with an valid or useful results out of it, right? So these can be the some of the scenarios, but the most important factor is from each and every step that we are doing, and it can be a positive effect. You are coming out with your full net or an empty net. Both the cases, the teams have to sit and really do brainstorming and understand what are the limitations, why are we not able to understand or identify any of the issues in here even after we spending so much of efforts, and try to quickly do the retrospective and try to immediately act upon that. Because if you're not providing the right tool set and the right data set for the people, or if people are also not having the right set of knowledge to perform such activities, all our efforts might go for a toss. And also not apart from efforts going for toss, there might be someone who is already inside your network living happily for ages, and then you're not able to proactively identify and catch hold of them. So these can be the impacts. So we can't say like, okay, fine, they're not finding anything, so we just can't ignore it in such a way. We have to really focus on to a feedback loop, and we also have to understand the reasons behind all the empty nets every time people come back and tell us. Yeah, and at the same time, what we have to really focus when we are doing on this is we just have to shrink the gaps each time we go through a hunt cycle. As I said, try to identify the gaps and feed those results into other practices to improve the security posture. In the end of the day, whatever practices that we are bringing into the organization as an extension of SOC, the main idea is to increase the security posture of our organization. So we really have to also ensure to sorry the lower the average dwell time, because as I also mentioned, right, sometimes the dwell time can be higher and so on, and detect malicious behaviors quickly and more frequently. So the earlier you identify a malicious behavior or a malware or whatever inside your organization, the better is for the organization, because the amount of losses that can happen using or that might happen because of this guys being inside your network can be really lessen the early we catch hold of them. At the same time, it is also really important for us to impose cost and adversaries, let them change their TTPs and up their game. So this should be our main focus of identifying and shrinking the gaps by lowering the dwell times and detecting them more frequently and also quickly, because the quicker you find out, the quicker you react, the lessen the amount of disaster for the organization. And if I also have to talk about what are the goals when we are talking about threat hunting, right? We normally also say like we can have a number of goals for it. So generally, as I said earlier, whenever we do this threat hunting activity inside the organization, people always say like as I said, they can also come back with the empty nets or whatever it can be, but we just don't want to make it really easy for the adversaries to hide in the network, because as I say, these guys are really very very tricky, and these guys, when they come inside the organization, when they are dwelling there for quite a number of times, it so happens like people, as I said, they just get into the network, and then they live there for days, weeks, months together, and they start investigating, and they start taking the entire ecosystem into their hands and whatnot. And they also use all of these huge tools and mechanisms like AI, ML, and so on and so forth. So these guys, since they are also upping their game, and what we have to do is we have to be much more advanced. As I started talking about it, right? When I started talking about it, I said this is all about a proactive approach, and we are in a tough competition with all the adversaries who are not being identified using all the tools, all the WAFs and all the networking stuff that we have in place, and we are trying to proactively chase them inside our organization. So with all the challenges that we put in into and all the efforts that we put into this entire process of threat hunting, we really also have to push them to change their tools, whatever methodologies they are trying to use inside, or they're trying to come up with a malware. We have to really give a tough fight, we have to give a really tough challenge for them, so that these guys are always pushed from our side to up their game, to really up their game in a better way, and to change their tools and also the way they behave. Maybe they identified a path and they just thought like, okay, this path is so cool, no one is trying to find us out, and we are kind of hidden in the network, they're already taking a cool breath. Let them know that you have identified them, and then now they also have to find a way out. At the same time, you know when for example, say like you've got some tasks to be done, like you have got some 10 days to complete a task inside your organization, and one fine day your manager walks to your desk and say like, hey, look, the customer is asking for a quick thing, I think they have a huge dependency to execute the business, and can you just finish it in 2 days or whatever it is. Then how is it going to be when you do something in a rush, right? There are going to be so many leaks, things are not going to be perfect. Initially you thought, okay, I have really cool 10 days of time, or I really have cool 15 days of time, and so on and so forth. But then when there is a huge time pressure, right? And then what happens if you have to develop something in 10 days and then you're given the task of 2 days? Then it's not going to be so clean and so perfect. In a similar way, when we do these activities inside the organization, right, when we are threat hunters, when we identify these adversaries on the network, when they get to know, like, you're closely monitoring them, they have to really start frightening about it. And now they have to really get out of the environment without, because they already understood, you have identified these guys are already existing on the network, right? In that time, what you have to really put the pressure on them, and also make them, what you have to make them do is let them have something left behind the environment that they cannot hide any longer unnoticed. So which means when they're in a rush, when they are being targeted, when they are being challenged, they just want to leave, and meanwhile they will also leave some clues and hints for us. So, and the main key goal for all of us who are doing threat hunting is also, like, they should not feel safe anymore inside the network. And it's not like we should not be worried as a team, as a mature threat hunting team. As I said, right, when we are into that entire cycle of doing threat hunting, we always have a feedback loop, and we always understand maybe the people are lacking skills, or it can be tools, or it can be data set, or whatever it can be. And the maturity of it also shows the kind of SMEs we have to do this activity as part of threat hunting. It's not about people, or this team of threat hunters are getting scared, like, oh my god, there is this guy who has come up inside the organization, and then what should I do? But rather it should be the other way around. They should not feel safe, and they are the ones who has to be worried, because they have to understand, look, we just came here only last week, and then these guys are already identified us. Maybe this can be a most a wishful scenario I am talking about, or maybe these guys have come inside the organization for a span of 1 month, and then immediately you caught hold of them, right? And in that case, what you have to do is you just have to put the pressure on them rather than we taking the pressure. So these guys have to be really worried about, oh my god, I was kind of being noticed by them. So what should I be doing now? Should I be staying over here, or should I be leaving? So these are the kind of the things that we have to, have goals for the threat hunting teams. But at the same time, if I, if I, as a manager of the team leading the threat hunting team, to define personal goals, it becomes really challenging. As I said, sometimes even with all the best of the tools, even with all the best of the knowledge, they can always come with an empty net. So you always, at the same time, because I always talk about the people, process, and the technology aspect, we also, as from the organization, we also have to ensure our threat hunting team is not being stressed. We are not giving them huge kind of an goals to be achieved. Yeah, as you start, because most of the organizations, this particular stream is also picking up slowly. And you, as a manager of the team, it is also really important, if you want to have and real meaningful goals, you also can't put the pressure with respect to the numbers, because this is not all about the number game. We also have to give them the confidence, like, these are the things that are expected, unlike the SOC and the other teams. Like, you just identify some pattern and then you catch hold of it, and then you finish it and you fix it. And it is also important for the managers of this team who are managing the threat hunting to give reasonable goals to the team, at the same time also gives them the confidence. And whenever they give an feedback, right, there is always a demand. Whenever we just go and ask for more tools, people always say, like, okay, you guys are asking us to spend more and more, and then I don't see any results. This can also happen in threat hunting over here. But we cannot always put in the measure, in the balance, about the amount of money I spent on this and the amount of results I have achieved out of this. As I mentioned, this is all about doing things in a very proactive way. So we, as organizations, we as teams, we also have to support this threat hunting guys, because trust me, these guys are already stressed. And as we are also, the final goal of threat hunting is what I mentioned, is the duty of them is to make sure the other guys, the adversaries, are getting worried, not our team. So we also have to really balance this out by setting the personal goals to the team, at the same time with which we will be able to achieve the goal of pushing away the adversaries because they don't feel anywhere safe inside our organization or in our institute. Yeah. And more importantly than anything else, I would also like to stress upon the success of threat hunting is also depending on the culture. As I mentioned, culture is really really important, and also not just about having the right set of tools and also procedures in place, but having the right set of culture as an entire organization is going to give huge meaningful and successful results on threat handling process for all of us. Yeah. So with that, I would like to end up my session. I think, Aditya, are we good with respect to the time?
Hi, Sailaja. Yes, yeah, you've finished perfectly in time.
Okay, good to
Anyway,
know that.
after you is the lunch break, so even if you go a couple of minutes over, it's okay.
Okay, okay,
Uh,
sure.
okay, so I'm going to get straight into the questions. We do have a couple of questions. The first one is how efficient is AI and ML for threat hunting?
Yeah, as I said, right, threat hunting is all about combination of manual versus AI and ML. We definitely have to use AI and ML because, as I mentioned in one of my slides, it also depends on the amount of data that you're feeding into the system. So depends on the large amount of data sets you have. You can also decide on AI and ML can also be used inside these procedures. And all of this is like, AI and ML technologies are like they are going to be giving a supporting hand for us to do these tasks, these huge Herculean tasks, and give us the wonderful results. For sure, they're going to be used for better advantage of threat hunting methodologies.
Okay, so then that brings me to the next question. What is the value of threat hunting if a business or corporation already has automated tools in place?
Yes, this is a wonderful question. I really like it, right? See, we can always have a lot of automation in place. But the important factor is people are also, let me also just get into the people aspect of it. People are also assuming with everything being automated, people are also going to lose jobs, right? We can have n number of automations in place, but in the end, there should be someone looking into the results and trying to tell you what is going to be the final outcome of the automation, right? Yes, automation, when I say like AI and ML and all of these things are going to be put into this threat hunting process, and it is a combination of manual plus automatic. We cannot immediately put automation into this. It's going to be a combination of all of this, but for sure there should be an human intervention required in all of this process, irrespective of be it a manual or be it an automation one.
Okay, do you see a future where the human aspect or human element of it can be completely replaced by AI?
I don't think so. I don't believe in that.
You don't think so? Okay, so the next question is what is the primary difference between threat hunting, threat detection, and I'm going to add a third point, threat intelligence?
Yeah, this is also an wonderful question, right? So there are so many terms and terminologies that are around us when we have to talk about, threat hunting. What is the other word you told me?
So, threat hunting, threat detection, and threat intelligence.
Yeah, threat detection is like, we are putting the knowledge and technology against military and territory threats and safety and all of that. And it is also the practice of analyzing entirety of the security ecosystem to identify any malicious activity that could compromise in a network. That is all about, threat detection. And if a threat is detected, then mitigation efforts must be enacted to properly neutralize the threats before it can exploit any present vulnerabilities. And threat hunting is what I've also mentioned to you now. So, what is the other one?
Threat intelligence, threat detection, threat hunting.
Yeah, threat detection is this, threat hunting is what I said. Threat intelligence is nothing, but you are adding this intelligence into this entire aspect of threat hunting activities, and then, using all these AI, ML, whatever terms and, the latest buzzwords in the market that you can put into this.
Okay, and my last question is okay, you mentioned in one of your slides that threat hunting is not only about identifying threat actors from externally, but also identifying software misconfigurations, improper access control lists, and whatnot. So, can we also say that penetration testing is a form of threat hunting?
No. Because as I mentioned initially, this is a proactive way of identifying things. So you don't know something exists inside your organization. That's the reason I also touched based upon SOC. What is it? It is kind of an extensive efforts of SOC, where SOC is a normal methodology, and this one is a proactive way of identifying things. We cannot say threat hunting is just only penetration testing over here.
Okay. So thank you for the clarification as well. I think we're done with the questions. As always, Sailaja, it was a pleasure having you and having you here. I mean, share your thoughts with our audience. We look forward to hosting you at our other reinvents, either as a delegate or as a speaker. Have a good rest of the weekend and stay safe, Sailaja. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Thank you, Aditya. Thank you. Stay safe.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
Bye bye. Bye bye.